Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the latest Mad Max installment called Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. For those who don't know really anything about Mad Max, really all this is it's a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out in 2015. And so this is a prequel story to that movie. Furiosa is a character within that movie who was played by Charlize Theron. And so we kind of get to see a look at her younger years kind of leading up to the events of Fury Road. And so that's kind of what ultimately Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga really is about. George Miller did come back for this. He is the original creator of Mad Max, so he's directed all five Mad Max installments up to this point. And so in this film, basically, we follow a young Furiosa. She keeps having these really bad encounters with this Dementus character that's played by Chris Hemsworth. He wants to know, where she lives, where all these goods are. Clearly, she's well fed and is a strong warrior and can fight and all this stuff. And so, basically, Dementus wants to know where she came from. This biker that works for him basically stole her from this place that she once lived. And so, Dementus throughout the movie is trying to figure out where this utopian place is that Furiosa seems to be from. And over the course of this movie, Furiosa obviously becomes the character that we know and love from Fury Road. We kind of get to see the story behind her arm, why it's robotic by the time it's in. We see her in Fury Road, why she has a shaved head, why she wears this like black gunk across her face whenever she's like in battle mode, about to kind of do a mission of her own and stuff. So over the course of this movie, we get to figure out what exactly made Furiosa Furiosa, and what exactly did she do to kind of resolve the situation of this Dementus character, finding out where her origin was, what place she was from, and how she ultimately could keep that place protected while also taking out this Dementus character and his biker gang. But overall, guys, I enjoyed this film. I wouldn't say I love this movie, but it's a very well made, enjoyable Mad Max movie. So if you liked Fury Road, if you like what George Miller has done with the other Mad Max films up to this point, I personally am not a huge fan of Beyond Thunderdome. I know that's kind of the weak link of the franchise for a lot of people. I know that's a lot of people's least favorite installment. But I would say all the other Mad Max films I'm pretty cool with. I really enjoy a lot of them. Fury Road in particular, I really, really liked. So I would say this is a nice little addition to the Mad Max franchise, even if it's not the best one. But overall, I'm going to give, for my positives and negatives of this movie first, obviously, and then I'll do a rating. So for my positive of this movie, it has great action scenes. If you like the action scenes that were done in Fury Road, I think you're going to have a lot of fun here. It's definitely a lot of fun. Well filmed, well choreographed. Definitely the music fits very well. It's just a lot of fun to watch. So George Miller did a great job with the action scenes in this movie. I also thought the in-depth story for Furiosa was nice and deep. We really do get to kind of see her as a young girl and how she gets to morph into this Anya Taylor-Joy figure that we get to see throughout most of this movie, and how she eventually becomes the Charlize Theron version of the character that we see in Fury Road. So I like how this in-depth version of the Furiosa character, I thought it was well done, and I thought George Miller definitely created a good story for the Furiosa character to live in. Anya Taylor-Joy plays a young Furiosa in this movie, and she does a terrific job. There's another actress that plays like an even younger version of her that we get to spend a lot of time with. Both actresses do a terrific job. Really like the performance that Anya Taylor-Joy brought to it. I like how she did her own thing while also kind of continued what Charlize Theron began with the character back in 2015. I thought both sides of that character blended well for her performance. So I thought that aspect of the character and that aspect of her performance were very strong here. The Chris Hemsworth Dementus villain I thought was very strong here as well. Very strong villain, definitely very threatening. You kind of get to hear a little bit as to why he does things the way he does towards the end of the movie. Very threatening character. Like if you mess with him in any way, people bow down to him. They follow orders from him. There's even characters that won't even speak about certain information until it goes to Dementus first. So he just has a lot of power within the Wasteland. And so the film does a great job with establishing the fact that this guy has a lot of power. You don't want to mess with him. And if you do mess with him, basically you're going to be wound up dead in the Wasteland somewhere. I also like the use of sound in this movie. Given I saw this film at an ultra screen showing, so it does help that the sound system is probably a little bit better than if I saw it in a regular screening. But the use of sound, the sound of the engine rumblings, all very strong here. I also like how when you're in your seat, you kind of feel the engine rumbling while you're in your seat a little bit because the sound system adds to that effect a little bit. It definitely adds an effect to the movie as well. So I like the use of sound. I like how the engine rumbling sounds you kind of get to feel in your seat over the course of this film as well. I also like the use of camera filters. George Miller did this in the previous film, also with Fury Road. But I do think this time around the camera filters add something. Last time around it was just like a scene that took place at night or a scene that was supposed to be like, a hot day in the desert or something. But this time around, I do feel like the camera filters add something to the story, whether it is a sandstorm or a nighttime scene. It feels more effective. Or if it's supposed to be like this mystical figure letting us in on information about Furiosa. Like you'll see that at the beginning of the movie when you see the film and if you know what I'm talking about. So I just thought the overall use of the camera filters were more effective this time around. They have more of a narrative to them. And I would also say too, like whenever they're in a desert storm this time around, you do get to see what's going on. I'll kind of get the impression that you have to take cover while these sandstorms are taking place in the desert because it is very hard to see all the way forward and all the way behind you. So I like how the film gives the impression that these sandstorms, you kind of want to take cover during them just because it is so difficult to see the world around you while these are taking place. For my negatives of Furiosa, though, I really would have preferred a story that takes place after Fury Road, following the Mad Max character, because this is Mad Max franchise. I am kind of in the minority of I think I really would have preferred another story about Mad Max himself. Cool to get another story about Furiosa. Even that being said, I would have think I preferred something where we followed the Charlize Theron version of the character in a story that took place after Fury Road with her. Um, Anya Taylor-Joy did perfectly fine. This is obviously a great script, but for me personally, if you're going to do another Mad Max story, have it about Mad Max and have it take place after Fury Road, kind of see what Mad Max is up to after that movie. I do know that Beyond Thunderdome was supposed to be kind of the final chapter of Mad Max. I don't know if George Miller felt like he didn't have enough story between Fury Road and that one to tell another Mad Max story with Max in it. But I really, as a Mad Max fan, as a film fan, I would have preferred another story that took place after Fury Road and have it focus on Max. Another negative I had with the movies, I do feel like it's about 15 minutes too long. I do feel like there's just a lot of stuff that happens that we don't necessarily need. Um, it just felt like, thrown in there to be thrown in there. I know it's on a 9-year wait for another Mad Max story, but that doesn't necessarily mean by the time we get one, it needs to be a super, super long movie. So I thought there was about 15 minutes or so that could have been trimmed out. I think the runtime would have felt more smooth that way because by the time the film was over with, it just felt I felt kind of exhausted as a film viewer because there's so much information was thrown at me. And I think about taking out about 15 minutes or so of the runtime, I think would have helped this film significantly. I also thought there was a lot of long absences in between action scenes. There's just a lot of scenes where we get action and then it's a long wait to the next action scene. We get an action scene and then it's a long wait to the next action scene. And also too, I also feel like when we do get action scenes, they're kind of repetitive. Like they feel like they're just kind of doing the same thing all over again. So, like I said, long absences between action scenes. I thought that could have been better, and that way the film would have significantly flowed better as well. I think more action scenes, um, less wait time to get to those action scenes, and I think the film would have ran more smoothly overall. And like I just mentioned a second ago, my last negative is I do feel like some of the action here is kind of repetitive. I do feel like once you see one great action scene, like the rest of the action scene kind of plays out the same way. And also too, it doesn't help that a lot of the action very much is in the vein of what Mad Max Fury Road did. So if you were kind of sick of what Fury Road was already offering to you action wise, I don't feel like this film offers like a lot of new kind of action scenes really. So that's another negative I have with the film is it does feel a little repetitive at times. But overall, I'm going to give Furiosa a Mad Max Saga at 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very well-made movie. I think it's a great Mad Max installment since it is a prequel. Um, I think there's things to love about this movie. I think there's things that are really good. I'm glad that George Miller got around to making another Mad Max story. But like I said, there's just some negatives along the way. I think I really would have preferred another Max central story that took place after Fury Road instead. I think the film runs about 15 minutes too long. Some of the long absences between action scenes did feel a little annoying. And then I also thought some of the action did feel a little repetitive as well. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend seeing Furiosa. I know it's not doing the greatest at the box office right now, but please go out and support this movie. I think it is worth your time and money, specifically if you're a Mad Max fan and if you liked what they did with Furiosa or with Fury Road back in 2015. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend seeing it. Furiosa, a Mad Max story, gets a thumbs up. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit.